telling you, I love Istanbul. This place has a new thing to offer at every location you go to. Just check out this place right here. These birds don't like me right now because I'm trying to get them to fly around me so I can get it in the shot.
What is happening, everybody? It is your boy Sean, and I'm here. Wherever you are, you're doing fantastic. It has been a week since I've been back from Istanbul, and I gotta say, I sincerely miss this beautiful city. First time ever in Istanbul, and I was just blown away by how beautiful and authentic this city is. Aside from its ancient history, this city has just so much to offer. The culture is amazing, and oh my god, the food is just through the roof. Next level. So if you haven't got a chance to visit Istanbul, don't wait forever like me. Definitely put it on your bucket list. As a matter of fact, bring it to the top of your bucket list and go ahead and visit Istanbul. And if for some reason you haven't seen a cinematic video I shot with the Mini 3 Pro in Istanbul, click the link right here. I don't know why you haven't seen it so far, but this time I'm not gonna be mad. But click the link right there and go tell me what you think of it. All right, you know why we're here. We're here to look at some footage from the Mini 3 Pro and the Mavic 3 side by side. Not to necessarily say which drone is better, but just so we can have something to talk about, you and me, on this channel. So without further ado, let's have a look.
Face of a happy man. We just wrapped up shooting up here. Super nerve-wracking. I'm having a little bit of adrenaline dump, but I think I'm happy with the footage. I haven't looked at it yet, but we seem to get what we wanted, at least 70-80% of it. And we're gonna grab something to eat right now, and tomorrow it all begins again, 4 in the morning. Stay tuned.
All right, I'm dying to know what you think. I'm gonna tell you what I think, but that is just one opinion. So I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think on this footage, so don't be shy. Get busy in the comments right now. Tell me what you think. Okay, so my initial thoughts before we dive into the, review, in one word, I gotta say, I love it, man. For me, it's so important to be able to shoot at night because we weren't able to do that before. And pretty much I can live with a smaller sensor, a lower dynamic range. As long as I can get some really nice, decent looking night shots, I'm a happy man. For a drone that shoots 10 bits, starting price is at $760. You can't really go wrong. I did a video specifically talking about only the Mini 3 Pros. If you haven't seen that video, click the link right up here. Cinematic wise, two main differences between the two. Number one is the sensor size. The Mavic 3 has a micro third sensor and the Mini 3 has the 1/1.3 inch sensor. The second big difference is the adjustable aperture that the Mavic 3 has, which is missing in the Mini 3 Pro. Now, while filming in Istanbul, I used the same settings on both drones as much as I could. The white balance was obviously always the same. The f-stop, I couldn't really change on the Mini 3 Pro. It was always at 1.7 on the Mavic 3. At most cases 2.8, and the ISO, depending on the light situation, the Mavic 3 can only go from 400 to 800 on D-Log, and on the Mini 3 on D-Cine alike, I was ranging from 200 only up to 400, believe it or not. Shutter speed was always double the size of the frame rate. We were either shooting at 25 frames per second or 50, and the reason we were able to do it without having to use any ND filters was pretty much because we were shooting at twilight in most cases. Now, even with identical settings, the picture that came out of each drone look very different. So I'm gonna walk you through the process, how I attempted to make them look similar. So let's have a closer look at these shots one by one. This is the Mini 3 D-Cine lock, and this one is the Mavic 3 on D-Log. So I am going to try to attempt to get this thing out of a log look. Usually the first thing I do, I have downloaded the LUT converter from DJI's website. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add it here, just like that. It's simple, and I think it does a really, really good job with that. So, but still, you can see over here that we can add a little bit of highlights. But when you do that, the sky gets a little too bright for my taste. And the reasons, there's a slight difference, not so much, but slight difference on the exposure of these shots, because like I mentioned, we were shooting at twilight time, and these shots are maybe even like 5 to 10 minutes apart from one another, but there's still a little bit of exposure difference because it was getting dark too fast. But I don't want to go all the way up here, simply because of the fact my sky is going to blow out too much. So this is the footage from the Mini 3 Pro right here, and because it's D-Cine log, it's not like D-Log, so it doesn't look as flat as the Mavic 3 footage. But what I'm going to try to do, let me turn this thing off so I can see the waves properly. Let's go ahead and add the lumetri. Now the dark points are already, the shadows and the blacks almost to their limit, so I'm not going to move them too much, but just a touch. But I'm going to try to bring more lights into this. And when I do that, again, it's because of the f1.7, there's already so much light coming into this drone, and I believe in this case the ISO was not higher than 400. You have to fly with this drone to know exactly what I mean by how great it performs in low light. So let's go ahead and turn back on the Mavic 3 footage. Now what I can do is I can try to bring in more shadows into that. And I forgot to add some saturation to the Mini 3 footage. So now, because this was filmed on a, maybe 10 minutes after the Mavic 3 shot, there's more lights, and the more you get closer to it being completely dark, the image starts to get a lot more contrasty. And this is what's happening over here. If you compare the highlights on the tower from that to here, there's just obviously more light coming in, and there's more contrast going on, more blue and more orange and more light in general. So over here, the number one, like if we were to zoom in over here a little bit. And these are just birds. So, right off the bat, the first things that I see is that the sky is a little bit brighter, and that is because, like I mentioned, maybe it was shot 10 minutes before the Mini 3. In almost every single shot that I saw, I see more purple in the Mavic 3 than I see in the Mini 3. In Mini 3, in most cases, I barely see any purple. I don't know why. In the Mavic 3, there are some purple going on. If you know, drop a comment and tell me why that is. But there's obviously, extra sharpness going on the Mini 3 Pro going on over here, and there is less dynamic range, and you can definitely feel the sensor being a lot more rich and more cinematic, where you can see more fine, not so sharpened details in the houses over here and on the tower as well. If I was to zoom in at 400, shot from the tower on the Mini 3 Pro compared to the Mavic 3 looks a lot more sharper and kind of, it's got more noise to it compared to the Mavic 3. Now, if I were to turn off the, lumetry on the Mini 3 Pro and keep the lumetry on the Mavic 3, there's still some details. Like if I don't crush the shadows, I can steal some really nice details on the Mini 3 Pro. So, the image quality coming out of this, I think it's, in my opinion, just amazing on how close it can get to a lot more professional drone. Now let's look at this shot. Now I haven't graded these color-wise. It's pretty much the, conversion LUTs applied to them. And I'm gonna try to keep it that way, so you kind of get a good comparison look to both of these footages, because if I was to colorize them, then that wouldn't be a really good comparison. But looking at these shots in the same scenario, I see more purple in the background, more purple in general, as you can see. But again, very similar, better dynamic range on the Mavic 3, more details, less noise, but all in all, you can't hate the Mini 3 footage. Alright, now in this scenario, the Mini 3 on the left, the Mavic 3 on the right side, they look pretty similar to my eyes, except I see more purple again in these shots over here, extra sharpness on the Mini 3 than the Mavic 3 seems to have, just a touch better on the dynamic range. This is the beautiful Sultan Ahmet Square in Istanbul. This place during the day, there's easily 100,000 people kind of walking through this beautiful square, and because this thing is so historic, it dates back to almost more than 2,000 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And during the day, it is so chaotic, you would have a hard time walking across this place, just because there's so many people. And we were there around 4:30 in the morning, and it was pretty much us. So, the scenery and the experience that we had early in the morning in Istanbul was pretty much next to none. All right, so again, a lot of sharpness on the Mini 3 Pro, more details in the shadows on the Mavic 3. Now this is a 200, so we see a lot of sharpness on the Mini 3, and dynamic range wise, they look pretty similar. 400, more noise on the Mavic 3, as you can see over here. Less sharpness. Same shot, Mini 3 on the left, Mavic 3 on the right. And I see more noise in this scenario in the Mavic 3. That's the one thing that's noticeable to me. The Mini 3 has even less noise coming in at this time of the day. Unbelievable. Now I've gone ahead and created a conversion LUT for the Mini 3 Pro. I will leave a link for you in the description. You can download it for free, which will make your life a lot easier by just applying it up here, and you already get your footage from the D-Cine-alike into a Rec 709. And if you like how I color graded my Mini 3 footage, I recently created a custom made set of lights specifically for for the DJI Mini 3 Pro, and they're currently on sale, so click the link in the description to check them out. And right off the bat, too much sharpening here, a lot more softer, the colors are a lot more natural on the Mavic 3. It's a lot more cinematic, and I like the image that the Mavic 3 can produce during the day a lot more than the Mini 3. Like I mentioned, daylight footage of the Mavic 3 is something else. Just look at the picture of the water. You know, there's the details in the colors, the dynamic range in the sky. All in all, I think I really like the footage coming out of the Mavic 3. Now this shot, I want you to look at it up close. I want to do these separately. This shot is from the Mavic 3. This is literally pitch black, but we're still able to see some details in the sky and on the water. Now, for night scenarios like this, I usually don't end up using the DJI's LUTs, because when I do that, this is what it looks like. And this is exactly what it was, you know, how it was looking when we were there. It was pretty much pitch black, but that's, you know, for my taste, I just don't like that look. So what I do this manually. I will try to just kind of bring down the shadows a little bit, not so much, you know, because if I have a drone that is able to give me details in the shadows when it's pitch black, I'm going to use it, and it's a really, really nice advantage. So I'm going to take advantage of it. So right now, exposure wise, this image, I already like it a lot, to be honest with you. Add a little bit of saturation and maybe bring up the highlights a touch from the midtones. Now, obviously there's some noise going on here. Now I can definitely go ahead and reduce that with a plugin. That wouldn't be a problem. Now let's have a look at the same shot straight out of the drone from the Mini 3 Pro. Now this was the shot that I was getting straight out of the drone from the Mini 3. You can see there isn't as much details in the shadows in the sky on the water, but still noise free. Let's run a, you know, kind of fix the exposure a little bit on the sky and see where we at. And I can try to just bring this up, leave the shadows, leave the bottom of the curve where it already is, and add a bit of saturation. A lot less noise compared to the Mavic 3, and the picture, in my opinion, looks mind-blowing. Now let's put these right next to each other. A lot more noise. I like the color on the bridge from the Mini 3. I really like the image that the Mini 3 is producing in this specific case scenario. In this specific shot, I think, you know, I'm gonna have to give the win to Mini 3. Tell me what you think, but in my opinion, you know, the Mini 3 wins. Alright, my conclusion is that the Mavic 3 has some obvious advantages in the picture quality, but for the price you get on the Mini 3 Pro, really is a no-brainer. And to answer the question I asked at the beginning of the video, am I gonna have to sell my Mavic 3? I gotta say, I don't know if I'm gonna do that, because main reason for that is I can simply match the footage of my Mavic 3 with the Sony Alpha 7S III, and that is very important to me. But you know, I might keep the Mini 3 as well, because I think the Mini 3 is also a handy drone to have. It's a small, easy to travel with, it's not loud, you can fly with it in a lot of places without a permission and a license, something you can do with your heavier drones. And all in all, I'm in love with the picture quality, so I guess I am keeping both. Alright guys, if you found this video useful, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like to see more content like this. Fly responsible and fly safe until we see each other next time. Stay safe.